Alright, what's up everybody? It's your boy Akin and welcome to today's vlog. I am back, ready to start things off with fantasy football, and I'm here to give you my rankings for the 2014 NFL fantasy season. Now I'm going to start things off with my top 20 quarterbacks. Now for this particular vlog, I'm going to talk about numbers 11 through 20, starting things off at number 20. But before I start things off with my top 20, I'm going to give you some honorable mentions, players who barely made it to this list. Joe Flacco of the Baltimore Ravens, I could not crack him in the top 20, but I think he could have a good season. He had definitely had a slump year last season, as well as Eli Manning of the New York Giants. He had a bad year, threw a lot of interceptions. He needs to do a better job in a touchdown interception ratio. And Sam Bradford of the St. Louis Rams. I think a lot of people decided to go with him and within their top 20s respectively, but I just had to keep him just a little bit out. I'm a little bit concerned about the knee injury. Now he had started off a great season, passing for over 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions before he had that season-ending knee injury. He was on good pace to become a good Pro Bowl player this upcoming season. Now, another thing I like to begin before I talk about my top 20, I'm going to give you a little bit of a little heads up about this particular position. Now, there are really only 2 big-name quarterbacks, possibly 3 quarterbacks who's going to give you huge numbers, and then the rest of the quarterbacks are pretty much even. So to accumulate this top 20, I had a little bit of a hard time deciding who I want to do with my rankings, but because of 3 particular players who was outside of the rankings last season, I had to put them in the rankings this upcoming season, and I'm really intrigued to see what happens this season. Now I'm going to start things off at number 20. I'm going to go with rookie quarterback Johnny Manziel out of Texas A&M. He's now playing with the Cleveland Browns. Now I do think, even though the Cleveland Browns lost Josh Gordon, I think that Johnny Manziel will work well in running the football, give you some good rush yards, which is a great thing in fantasy football, can give you points. Now, I'm not saying that the Cleveland Browns are going to win, but as I told you guys before, you cannot be a fan and look at the results of the games, but look at the results of the players. And I think because of the loss of Josh Gordon, I think more is going to be put on Johnny Manziel. I think he's going to panic a little bit more, deal with a lot of difficulties as a rookie, but he's going to definitely run the football a lot, and even though he's still going to get some good passing yards, I think he could be a good Rookie of the Year candidate coming towards the end of the season. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. At number 19, I'm going to go with Alex Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a good year last season. He actually was ranked 15 overall at the end of the season in final points according to ESPN. And I think he could do the same thing this season, but I had to push him back due to 3 particular players who I had to put in my top 20, and even though they were out for most of the season last year. At number 18, I'm going to go with Ryan Tannehill out of the Miami Dolphins. He placed 16th last season, and I think he's going to have a better chemistry with Mike Wallace, as well as, don't forget about Brian Hartline, and let's not forget about Charles Clay. He had an outstanding season at the tight end position, and I think that Ryan Tannehill is getting a little bit more comfortable within the pocket and being a leader for that offense. I think he could be due for a decent season. That's why I had to put him in my top 20. At 17, a player who's actually finished 12th last season was Big Ben Roethlisberger out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 4,200 yards of passing last season, 28 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. But I think a lot of people need to look out for both Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount. I think this two could be a good running back tandem, and I think that could even help out Big Ben Roethlisberger in opening things up with the receiving core when Antonio Brown leading the way at wide receiver. At number 16, I'm going to go with Matt Ryan out of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is when the controversy definitely begins, because he actually finished 14th last season without Julio Jones, and I know a lot of you guys are already scratching your heads and raising your eyebrows on why I decided to go with him at number 16. I think he could be due for a better season, but I still think there's a couple of there's other quarterbacks who could be due for a good season. That's why I had to put him at 16, and I know a lot of you guys are already starting to scratch your head. At number 15, I'm going to go with Tom Brady of the New England Patriots. Even though he doesn't have any big-name receivers, this is still Tom Brady. He did pass for over 4,500 yards, or 4,300 yards, and 25 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Hopefully, he will boost things up a little bit, especially with the loss of LeGarrette Blount at running back, the bruiser. And unless Stephen Ridley steps it up and what he did back in 2012, Tom Brady's going to have to put in a lot more work at quarterback and lead his team back to the playoffs, possibly even to a better season. At number 14, I'm going to go with Tony Romo out of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, even though he does not win big games, he still gives you valuable fantasy points, 31 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions last season. At number 13, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson, another head scratcher. He actually finished 8th last season, but with the loss of Golden Tate and even the curse of teams winning the Super Bowl and having a slump of a season the following year, I think that Russell Westbrook's numbers is going to drop a little bit, even though I do like their selection in Paul Richardson out of Colorado, the wide receiver in this past season's NFL draft. I think he could be a good addition, possibly a #1 target for Russell Wilson, but because of the Super Bowl slump of a curse that most of the Super Bowl winning teams have the following season, I think that Russell Westbrook's numbers will drop this upcoming year. At number 12, I'm going to go with Nick Foles out of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, he finished 11th last season, and a lot of people even have him within their personal top 10, but I had to put him at number 12 because I'm still not 100% sold on him. I still think he's a great player coming out of Arizona. I had talked about him before. 27 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions, but he was he's very underestimated last season, just like how Colin Kaepernick did back in 2012, and in 2013, he didn't really live up to the hype, and I'm not really sure. I'm a little bit concerned for Nick Foles, and that's why I have him at 12th overall. And at number 11, I'm going to go with Phillip Rivers out of the San Diego Chargers. Finished 6th last season with over 4,400 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, while earning Comeback Player of the Year honors. He had an outstanding year, and that running game is getting a lot better for the San Diego Chargers with Ryan Matthews leading the way. But they have a good set of running backs for the Chargers. Let's not forget about Donald Brown and Danny Woodhead, who actually led all running backs with receptions with 66 last season. So that cracks up my first 10 for my top 20, my first half of my top 20, and I'm going to catch you with a second video today to give you my top 10 quarterbacks for the 2014 fantasy football year. Thank you for watching this vlog from Pro Football Exclusive. I'm your man, Akin McCall. Be easy.